Welcome, Fairfax community. We have another extraordinary guest today. Last year, I was at a workshop up in Queensland and we did breathwork. We did a breathwork session and it took about an hour and a half. It felt like it went for 5 minutes, and it's one of the most intense, challenging, amazing things that I have ever been through. And it was part of therapy for me, but I cried, I screamed, I sweated. I had this visual of this black, horrible line in my stomach come up, out, through my chest, and this weight was lifted. Breathwork is massive. It's part of the wellness movement and it ties in with things like ice baths, so many different things. Today we have the owner of Breathe to Connect, Taylor Jackson. Thanks for joining the Fairfax today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
So Taylor and I, before we went on air, we've just worked out that she helps with a huge workshop on the local beach where I live. And my dog often disturbs her participants running through. She must, as Taylor said, pick up on the positive vibe. Taylor, where are you from?
So I'm from Melbourne. I live in St Kilda, so not far from you. Yeah. I grew up in Melbourne. I went to Adelaide for university, and then I've been back in Melbourne for the past few years.
What did you study over in Adelaide?
I actually studied media and marketing, which in hindsight has given me a lot of tools to help me with what I'm doing now. But I never realized that that degree was going to help so much with what I'm doing now. So it's cool.
How was your upbringing? How was your childhood? Pretty normal? Pretty...
I had a pretty amazing childhood. My parents are incredible people. They actually both lost their parents at quite a young age. And so my family unit of me, my brother, my mum and my dad are all super, super close. I probably see them almost every single day. So they live in Hampton. I've been trying to convince them to get in the water a little bit more. Mum sometimes gets in, but my brother and dad have said, no, we're not getting in. But yeah, super amazing childhood. I'm very, very close to my mum and dad and little brother. Very grateful for them.
Let's talk about breathwork. How did your journey end up here?
So I was actually trying to be a musician. So in 2021, I left university and I decided I wanted to become a famous musician. And I went down this crazy pathway of basically playing gigs every single week. I was in a band, I was recording and producing heaps of music, and I was going after what I thought was my childhood dream. And throughout that journey, I got to such a low point. I have a bit of a theory with musicians and actors, not all, but I think going after a career like that, it is quite, you have to focus on yourself a lot, and it's quite me. And I got to quite a low point, and I think my innate nature is to help other people. And throughout this dream that I was going after, I wasn't seeing the help I was maybe creating. And so I was craving community and I was craving connection. I'd never done breathwork in my life, but I found this beach group called Cool to Be Conscious. And so this was about a year and a half ago. And I found that they did Saturday morning sessions on the beach. And so I went down there one morning. Went by myself. I was so nervous. And I got there and we did a 10-minute conscious connected breathwork practice on the beach, and then everyone would get in the water and we did a connection activity. And I remember doing this breathwork on the beach, and all of these emotions started to come up for me, and I could not believe what I was experiencing, what I was feeling. And I remember getting up from the breathwork experience on the beach that morning, just looking around, and I felt this insane sense of peace. I felt so content with where I was, and I felt like everything was okay. And I realized in that moment how much I'd been living inside my head and not in my body. And after that morning, I honestly just went down this pathway of, I have to know more. What is this breath work? Like, how does this happen? How do these emotions come up? And so it happened sort of naturally, but there was a real crossroads with what I was doing with music. And then I found this love for breath work, and I decided to just pause on the music thing for a little bit whilst I went down this new pathway. And then I went into my training in Queensland with a guy called Trey Williams, who's an amazing, amazing teacher. And I just fell in love with it more and more. And I think this space is so incredible, you know, when you're surrounded by people who are into breath work and cold water therapy and meditation. The energy is just amazing, and the community is incredible. And so slowly I've distanced myself from that music dream, but I found this new love and this new passion for doing something that has ignited so much more in me. And I still get to, you know, get up in front of people and facilitate and teach and talk, and that still fills my cup. But I feel like I'm making so much more of a difference, and I feel so much happier in what I'm doing. So that's sort of what led me to breathwork.
So just looking at you, you can see how enthused you are by it and how positive you feel about it. What can you tell the listeners a little bit about what are the aims of breathwork? How does it work?
Yeah, cool. So I like to explain breathwork to people as sort of a spectrum. So breathwork gets used a lot these days, but it's actually more of like an umbrella term for this large spectrum of different techniques. So on one end of the spectrum, you've got your calming sort of breathwork that activates your parasympathetic nervous system. So a lot of people know this sort of breathwork. It's, you know, your box breathing, your 4-7-8 technique, anything to down-regulate your nervous system when you feel that anxiety or that stress or that fear sort of come on. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you've got your deep transformational sort of breath work. And this sort of breath work is a lot more therapeutic. It gets a little bit spiritual. However, there's so much evidence now behind this sort of breath work and what it does. And the way I like to explain it is, if on this end of the spectrum, you are activating your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest system, then the more therapeutic transformational breath work, you are intentionally activating your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight response, in a controlled and safe environment. And what this does is it gives your body a chance to complete emotional stress cycles. And so to simplify that for the audience, basically every single day, you know, we experience different emotions, whether it's sadness or anger or fear, excitement. And a lot of the time, if we experience quote unquote negative emotions and we don't feel like we can show those emotions, we will often suppress them. And when we suppress an emotion, it stays within us. And so this sort of breath work, the therapeutic sort of, the sort of breath work you were saying at the start that you did, like the hour and a half breath work, that's stimulating your body to go into that fight or flight and to actually move that energy. What it does is it gives your body a chance to create space and complete emotional stress cycles so that you can actually let go of this energy and these emotions that are staying within you. And so that sort of breath work is the sort that completely changed my life. It completely helped with so many things that I had been suppressing. It's incredible for helping people with, past memories, past trauma, past experiences, letting go of things that we're still holding resentment towards. But then I think the most important part about breath work is you can have those insane, crazy transformational experiences, but it's what you then do afterwards and how you integrate breath work and meditation into your everyday life so that you're always moving energy, so that you're always connecting inward and you're always coming into your body. Because I know that from personal past experience and seeing it with people, you can have an experience where you think everything's changed, but then I think it's the daily practice of continuing to go inward and be within our bodies. I think so many of us, live up here, which we do need to sometimes, but it's becoming conscious of what's going on within your body and becoming conscious of the emotions and actually tapping in and using breath work to get out of here and get in here. So, yeah.
Well, as a believer, not a believer, as someone who's had so many positive experiences from what you're talking about, would you say, so if we look traditionally, and obviously people far older than you, there are a lot of traditional medicines and methods. This is all new, isn't it? And would you say it's preventative rather than reactive, a lot of this practice, or is it both?
I would 100% say preventative. Definitely. I really think with breathwork and meditation, even though it's new to us, it's ancient wisdom, right? It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. I think it's just becoming more normal in today's world, and it's still considered woo-woo. It's still considered a little bit weird, a little bit unconventional, because it's not taught, a modern doctor isn't taught breath work or meditation. They're taught to prescribe medication, which is an incredible tool, and we need that. However, I think it's like shifting everyone's perspective on what's normal and what's not. Have you ever listened to Dr. Gabor Mate?
No, I haven't. But sorry, continue.
So he has this incredible book called The Myth of the Normal. And he was a doctor for a really long time. And he basically explains how, we've got to start to change our perspective on what's normal and what's not normal, because we've all been conditioned to think that we need medicine to cure things, and there's so many tools that people are relying upon, when really, like, there's things like cold water therapy and breath work and meditation that are going to give you so much more freedom in how you live your life, and I think are so much more powerful tools in helping you live the life that you want to do and preventing so many conditions and diseases.
Well, I guess this stuff is a threat to the traditional, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, because you can't sell it.
No. A great man who mentored and taught me, Murray Mazarek, who took me through the breathwork, speaks about traditional sort of therapies, and it is a business, and not to poo-poo Western medicine, but he speaks about, say some traditional psychology, you go there once a month and you just go backwards and forwards through the same rut, don't you? You don't actually, whereas a lot of this stuff you're talking about, you're getting to the core of it and you're fixing it.
And I think as well, like, I absolutely love modern medicine, and I love, talk therapy and all of that. But I think that with some things, there's only so far you can go in terms of, if you're going to talk therapy and you're trying to work through this thing that happened a long, long time ago, there's only so much talking you can do to out-talk it, because then you get to a point where you're probably just looping it in your mind over and over and over again, what happened in the past. And I think there comes a point where something like breath work, you are not trying to talk your way out of it. You're actually getting inside your body and you're letting your body do what it needs to do to release what it's been holding on to. And I think just when you really think about that, it makes sense, but it does. It threatens a lot of what is in today's world.
What about I quoted him today. I can't remember the philosopher's name. He talks about treat your body rigorously so it won't be disobedient to your mind. Do you think that may apply with breath work and the cold water immersion and doing vigorous things with your body so that your mind is in better health?
100%. 100%. I heard a quote the other day. It was like, do the hard things now to have an easy life, or do the easy things now to have a hard life? 100%, and I think about times in my life where, I probably haven't been very resilient. I probably haven't been, had the best mental health. And I think about the way that I was living in those times, and it was always immediate gratification, living within your comfort zone. And I mean, now every single day, it's a non-negotiable for me. I get up, I do my breathwork and meditation. I get in the cold water. There's always so much resistance that you would know, but the cold water is just insane for doing the things that are hard now to, you do the hard thing in the morning and then the rest of the day is easy. And I just think it's so true, but it's almost like we've got to trick our minds into doing it because we think, how could that possibly be? But then you do it every single day and you realize it's so true.
Well, the famous Joe Rogan and also Tony Robbins, they don't think, they just get in their ice baths, because if they think they won't, it is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And as well, I was thinking about this the other day, because this is the first year that I've continuously gotten in the cold water almost every single day. And my nervous system is so much calmer this year. I feel the cold so much less. And I feel like even just my mental toughness, getting into a cold shower now, it's so just like, oh, that's just what you do, But when you first start doing that sort of stuff, it's so hard. But then it gets easier and easier and easier. And then life gets easier and it's amazing.
How's breathwork made your life better?
How has breathwork made my life better? Oh, wow. Okay. So firstly, I think one of the most important tools anyone can learn in this life is how to regulate your emotions and how to regulate your nervous system. And breathwork, by doing breathwork every single day and having it as a therapeutic tool, has helped me regulate my emotions so much, become conscious of my emotions, and then also regulate my nervous system. When I used to perform all the time for singing, oh my gosh, this was a few years ago. I'd never heard of breathwork before. I honestly think, looking back on it, I used to go into a really heightened fight or flight state before I'd get up on stage. I'd get the sweaty palms. I'd feel sick in my stomach. My jaw would tighten. My throat would close up. And, everything happens for a reason. And we go on these journeys and things happen at certain times. But if only I had known, just slow down your breath. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 8. You are going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. You are going to calm everything down. Stick with it. It's okay. Just breathe. I think it would have been a much more pleasant experience. So breathwork has completely helped me regulate my nervous system and emotions so much, to the point where now I feel completely different every single day. The way I wake up, the way I go to bed, the way I respond and react to certain situations. I'll get up in front of 200 people at Feel Good Dips on the beach, and there's none of that fight or flight. I'm just in my body. I'm present, I'm grounded, I'm in the space. And that's wild to think when I think about the girl 2 years ago who used to get up on stage and sing in front of people, and I was just a mess. I couldn't, and I thought it was just me, but I realized now it was the way I was breathing. It was the way I was up here and not in here. And all I needed to do was learn the tools and techniques to be able to get back in my body and down-regulate my nervous system. And so I think a lot of people almost think, she's just got more confidence, like she's lucky. But I really do think it's a technique and it's a tool that can be learnt. And if you learn how to regulate your nervous system, my gosh, the sky's the limit.
Well, there's got to be something to it, hasn't there? Because the Navy SEALs use box breathing 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the afternoon to keep themselves calm. And they go into some reasonably full-on situations. And I think also, is it biathlon? The guys at cross-country ski, and then they have to calm themselves to do the target shooting. They're quite adept at breath work, aren't they, and breathing to get their heart rates down so that they can aim better.
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing for sport. I used to be a rower actually at school, and that's another time where I'm just like, oh, imagine learning these tools when you're doing sport or you're competing at a high level. I'd love to bring breathwork to more students at schools. I think it would help them so much. And it's just not something that kids are taught. Like we never get taught.
That my children attend a school where they do sound circle, and they now do wellness classes with meditation and breathwork.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's amazing. That's incredible.
But yeah. Can you tell me about some of your clients? Obviously, you have to keep confidentiality, but can you tell me about some of the changes you've seen in your clients?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest change that I see within clients is people, because I think of it like this: when you're a breathwork facilitator, all that you're doing, or all that I'm doing, is guiding someone to have the experience on their own and become conscious of what's going on, get out of their mind, get into their body so that their body can show them or release what's going on. And the most amazing part of doing what I do is when I get to witness someone have a realization or have an emotion come up or have a memory come up or have, a memory of when they were a little kid or something where they go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that was there or that was going on. And they're able to actually feel it, let it go, and then move forward. And I feel like when you have something like that change within you, and then you can integrate the session, your whole outlook on certain relationships in your life completely changes, on, maybe past experiences where you haven't handled them in the best way possible, because you're looking at things with a new perspective. And so I really think that the biggest change within people is a perspective shift and taking ownership of what's gone on in the past and taking ownership over their own emotions and what they can do to then regulate their emotions for the future. So that would be the biggest change that I see, for sure.
Where do you obviously work down on the beach at Elwood Beach? Where can people go to you as a facilitator?
Well, there's a few places actually, but I don't know if you guys have heard of the Feel Good Hood. So that place is opening up in September, and I'll be running sessions there. That's in Hawthorne.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I take one-on-one clients. So that's just at my studio that I do one-on-one sessions. And then I also do online classes. And then on the beach, I do community sessions. And sometimes I even do sessions out of the Hampton Life Saving Club, which is such a cool spot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's done in the mornings, is it?
yeah, sometimes I'll do morning sessions or evening sessions. It really depends. Like, I'll normally put a poll up for my community and be like, what session time just suits people. And then I also did a women's breathwork workshop recently at Cooler Yoga Studio in Hampton, which was also a really beautiful venue. So, yeah.
What else is on the horizon for yourself and breath work?
Oh gosh. So many things. I think at the moment I'm discovering a real passion for helping people return to that deep love for themselves. And I think, with breath work and mindfulness, you can overcomplicate it. You can make it as sciencey as you want to. But I really do believe that when it comes down to it, what all these practices do and what all of these practices help us do is return to that deep love for ourselves. And so the more people that I can reach, whether that be doing more community sessions on the beach, getting more into public speaking, reaching schools. I'd love to reach schools. I think it would just be so incredible for more teenagers, especially to learn these tools and techniques, and running more workshops. I'm taking it a month at a time at the moment, but yeah, as long as I can reach more people and help them rediscover that for themselves and know that everything that they need is already within them, you've just got to come back into within your body, then I'm happy and I'm living my purpose. So
It's you mentioned it's a tumultuous time as a teenager, isn't it? And it would be very, very valuable, particularly in it's very fast paced now, isn't it? With phones and social media and a lot of social pressures, it'd be a very handy tool, wouldn't it, for teens to have?
Oh, 100%. I feel like teenagers as well, like, everyone goes on about how that generation's really self-absorbed, but I think they've got a really hard time at the moment. And I think that it's even tougher if you were a teenager at the moment and you're seeing your parent always on technology and then you're always on technology. It's like there's this whole shift happening at the moment where kids are so addicted to their screens. And so I do think it's going to take a lot more than just teaching them some breathing techniques to help, but it's a start, right?
So your older clients, is it helping them obviously with their jobs and the other stresses that they experience?
Yeah, definitely. I actually had a corporate booking the other day. It was a group of lawyers and they were so stressed when they came into the session. And it always surprises me with breathwork because I think when I'm running a session, I can feel the energy in the room, but it's not until afterwards, people will come up and they'll say things and it's so nice to hear. But this session was all about activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So it was a really calming session, like deep, full flowing breaths with some breath holds and then a visualization meditation at the end. And at the end, I had two people in the room had fallen asleep, which they thought was rude of them and that they were upset that they fell asleep. But I take that as a compliment because I'm like, if someone's so relaxed that they've fallen asleep, amazing. And yeah, they just said at the end, they didn't realize how much they were in their heads. And they found that when they were just focusing on that breath, focusing on it, filling up their belly, letting it go, listening to the guidance, that they were truly able to actually relax. And they felt like they hadn't given their brain and body true relaxation in so long. I think so many of us think that we're relaxing, but we're on our phones or we're on the laptop or watching Netflix, and that's not true relaxation. True relaxing is fully switching off and fully allowing your body and your brain to just be and to just go within. And so, yeah, definitely. They went back to their jobs a lot calmer that day. I think there were probably some external stresses that continued to happen throughout the day, but they did say that it helped so much. And knowing what to do when stressful situations happen at work as well, that's helped them a lot as well.
The stuff that you just spoke about, we've always got a distraction, haven't we? Because if you have a distraction, you don't have to accept or focus or just be in the now, do you? You can constantly be distracted. So I suppose if you asked most people in the street now, sit on your couch or sit in a chair or whatever for 10 to 15 minutes without a device or without talking or looking at anything, it's actually quite challenging, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very challenging. Most people can't do it. And I think a lot of people get angry at themselves for not being able to do it. And it's a daily practice, if you just wanted to start off by doing a meditation or a short breathwork practice for 2 or 3 minutes every single day and then building it up, you get better. But I think a lot of people start off with 20 minutes. They go, I can't clear my mind. I suck at this. And then they give up. Firstly, you're not meant to clear your mind. It's okay. Thoughts come in. The whole point of it is to become conscious of them, compassionate towards those thoughts, and then let them go and just be there. I remember I went to a Joe Dispenza retreat in Mexico with my mom. This was at the beginning of my sort of like journey to all of this world. And at this point, I had done some 20-minute meditations. However, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And my mum knew exactly what we were going to. And one of the meditations, we got up at 3 a.m. and it was a 5-hour meditation. And so if you left the room, you couldn't come back in. And I just remember going, there's no way I'll be able to do a 5-hour meditation. But something happened in there because I did. And it went by, the first 50 minutes took so long. And then it just went by like that. It was such a pivotal point for me in going, when you sit down to meditate or do breath work, you are overcoming yourself. You are changing your habits. You are changing what's going on inside. Every time you just like pull the body back down and you say, no, I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to go check my phone. I'm not going to go do this. And you bring it back to the present moment. That's like a little win every single time. And so
I was actually going to ask you about him. This is the latest audio book. And he is pretty amazing, isn't he? How he talks about how we're all molecules and what you put out, you get back. And wow, for you to have attended a workshop, that's next
it was insane. It was 6 days in Mexico, and it was wild.
6 days
so
in
cool.
Mexico, I suppose, is better than 6 days in Melbourne, isn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those once in a lifetime experiences. So very, very lucky to have gone on that.
Taylor, do you do breath work with people that have suffered different traumas or PTSD?
Yeah, no, I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of changes do you see in them?
It's difficult with past trauma. I really do believe that if you have experienced past trauma, the only person in the world that's going to heal that past trauma is you. And so everyone has different experiences. So I really think it depends on how ready you are to face that trauma and how willing you are to let go and to get out of your mind and get into your body, and in some instances re-experience. And I've had people in the past have a lot come up during breath work, but then it's almost like, if you think about therapeutic breath work or transformational breath work, when certain things can come up for us during that experience, we can then as human beings, want to attach a story to the memory or the trauma that is maybe coming up. How what this can do is it can loop over in our heads, and then we're never actually releasing it because it's just getting stuck at the top, and then it's almost as if it can kind of bring it up even more. And so dealing with people who have experienced intense trauma or any past experience, it's got to be treated delicately. And I really do think it's about keeping people within their window of tolerance and still working through it, but working through it slowly, because sometimes it can be way too much at once. And, you know, to go back and to really face certain things that have happened can be really, really hard. And I really, you know, breathwork has helped me with things that have happened in my past so much, but it was about taking the right steps and going slowly and being ready to actually face it and let go and breathe through it, and then to integrate it properly and to not just let it go and then that's it, but to go, okay, and check in with yourself and become conscious of what's going on. So yeah, it's amazing for that, but it does have to be treated delicately for sure.
What do you get out of seeing your clients benefit?
Oh, I just think when you see that someone has changed internally and a behavior, a thought has completely changed, and you can recognize and see that that person has so much more love for themselves and their inner child. And that gives me goosebumps when someone really, really can see that they haven't been showing up for themselves, and all of a sudden they go, oh my gosh, I just had to come back to me. I just had to go back to that little kid within me and nurture them and be there for them. Oh my God, I've been looking for everything externally, but all I needed to do was come back to me. And I think when I see that and see someone have one of those moments and those realizations, that fills me up so much, and it makes me so grateful to do what I do, because it's so special to help people rediscover that.
Very Joe Dispenza, isn't it? You change internally so that it can go out externally. You don't want to rely on
100%.
external to change your internal.
100%. And I really think, and I catch myself doing this all the time, you know, if we don't feel comfortable within ourselves, we don't feel safe within our own bodies, or we feel like there's these uncomfortable feelings coming up, we will do everything to look for something externally, whether it's picking up our phone and going on Instagram, or whether it's, you know, dating, or whether it's going out drinking, alcohol, drugs. Like, there's so many things that we will do to avoid going internal. And going inward can be really hard, but it's so much better, I promise. And it's so worth it. I think we all get really, really scared to go inward, and so we'll do everything we can to avoid it.
Taylor, where can people contact you? How can people get onto this amazing breath work?
Yeah, well, my Instagram's Breathe to Connect. So BreatheTO and then connect.
Okay.
And
Instagram.
yeah.
Yep. Do you have a website?
And everything's there. Yeah. Website's all on the Instagram. It's just www.breathetoconnect.com.au.
So the best way is to go onto Instagram, Breathe to Connect.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, this is something that you shouldn't ask a lady, but I will. How old are you, Taylor?
I actually just turned 26.
Oh, good Lord. Okay. So you're only 26 years of age. I shouldn't say that. I asked that. It was a loaded question. You're 26, but you are changing people's lives for the better. You are extraordinary. And we thank you so much for joining us on the Bare Facts today, Taylor.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of the beautiful community that you've created. It's amazing.
Well, we need more people like yourself, and we need people, and Instagram again, Breathe to Connect. Get in contact with Taylor and make your life even better.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.